everyone, and welcome to this episode of the My Games Recruitment Show, where we will be looking at client care that you can use to boost your revenues and make you the apex supplier so you can really max out those revenues. And today, it's a very special episode, and I really enjoy these episodes because I get to grill the man himself, My Games. How are you doing today, Dad?
Well, I'm back off me hollybobs, actually.
Well, you abandoned me.
The white hair, the tan, the shirt, it's a story, Lovey.
Absolute story.
Absolute story. I got to be honest with you, we went with two of my grandchildren. I have 5 grandchildren. I went with 2 of them and Peter. So it's like 3 children, really. Thank God for Kids Club. I mean, I think Pete felt a bit awkward doing making little pirate hats and everything, but it was fine. We got rid of him. You know, we could have an adult time there. Yeah, it was absolutely fine. No, it was brilliant. And I just realised how much I needed a holiday. And by the way, for those people that see my post recently about what to do on holiday with work, I stuck to it. I only looked at my phone every 3 days. The other 2 days didn't bother. Oh, man, feels brilliant to do that.
Makes a big old difference to the family. And having that time off, especially now that we're coming in the summer, is so, so important. So please make sure we do that. But that's not what we're here to talk today about, Mike. We are here to talk today about client care.
Yeah, we are.
Where the banner at the bottom comes from. So really, at the moment, because of the kind of what do you call it that we're in, the what? Not I've got political climate. That's not the word.
Economic climate.
Economic climate. That's the one. Thank you. Wrong one. A lot of people are focusing on BD. BD is the focus. Get more new clients. That's how you get more money. You get more new clients. Why are we bucking the trend and talking about client care when realistically a lot of people are going to be thinking BD is where I need to put my focus?
It's interesting, actually. First thing to say is we've got half as many people registered for this show as we normally get. Mm-hmm. And a third of what we had when Van was here a couple of weeks back. And that's, I think, how people see client care. It's not important, really. What matters is BD. Get the BD and delivery, you know, convert the vacancies into money. And of course, they're important. But if you think about a bucket, and as you tip in clients at the top, the kind of level of money, revenue inside goes up. But the bucket's got holes in it, right? And the revenue's leaking out. So you're putting them in the top, but the revenue isn't going up. And that's why a lot of people aren't growing, really. They've got clients sometimes, but they don't make the most of them. They don't maximize the revenues. They don't position themselves. To make a lot of money, you have to have an edge with the client. If it's a level playing field and everyone's the same, you're never really going to make a dough then. You've really got to get an edge, even if there's an official preferred supplier agreement in place. And so officially, you're all supposed to be treated the same. Yeah, fine. Well, that's okay. But if you've got the clients on your side, they're the ones who'll give you a ring and say, oh, there's a vacancy coming out in 2 days. You should look around for this kind of thing. Or they're the people that, because they like you, when your CVs come in, they look at your CVs first. Or if there's a choice between your CV and somebody else's and they're pretty much the same, they choose yours. It doesn't sound like a big difference, but the impact of those differences is massive. And the thing that gives you that edge is client care.
Yeah, I think the other thing to take into account in a market like we're currently in, your competitors are actively going to try and drill holes. They are actively going. That's what your competitors focusing on BD means. It means taking your current clients and making them their own. So they're going to be there with a little hand drill, I imagine, just drilling holes in your bucket. So in order to focus on client care, what you're actually doing is protecting from that competitor attack as well. Like, because it's not one of these kind of passive things. It's active, isn't it, that you're having to defend?
I think it's worse than the Chinese, the North Koreans and the Iranians having cyber attacks on it's the same thing. It's like these people are trying their best to get your business. And oftentimes we treat clients differently to the way in which we treat our prospects, So there's this concept of perceived indifference where the client thinks we don't care. The client thinks we're indifferent because we don't show the love. Okay, I can tell you this joke. It's been an old story, really. You must have heard of this, actually. So this bloke dies and he goes to heaven. St. Peter meets him at the pearly gates and says, well, you've had a good life, you've led a good life, you can come in. He said, but we've got a new rule now. We have to show you what it's like downstairs. So go over onto that lift, go downstairs. Someone will pick you up downstairs, in hell, and show you around, and then you can choose where you want to go. He says, fine. So he goes downstairs, he opens the lift doors, and there's these two voluptuous ladies, and they're all over him and everything, and they're showing him around, and there's the barbecue area, and they're all drinking beer and like flipping burgers, and then there's the swimming pool area, and then the country club area with the golf club and everything. This is fantastic. This is amazing. So he goes back up in the lift, says to St. Peter, oh man, thank you very much for inviting me in, but I'm going to go downstairs. Peter says, you sure? Yeah. So he gets in the lift, he goes downstairs, the doors open, and it's completely different. It's raining, it's cold, it's windy. The barbecue area is all abandoned and overgrown with shopping trolleys in it. The pool area is all gone green and it's all overgrown, and the country club's gone. It's just terrible. And he happens to bump into one of the girls that was showing him around, and he says, what happened? And she said, oh, that's easy. Yesterday you were a prospect, today you're a client. And I think that's probably an extreme case, but I think we do treat people, can take them for granted sometimes. Yeah. Our attention is on the new, to make the new all look shiny and nice, but when we get them, not so much. And I think that no one makes a decision to do that. It's just how it works. Whereas the big money is in client care. But PwC some years ago did some research on this, and they discovered that for professional service companies, which includes recruitment companies, there's probably around about 20 to 25% latent growth in your existing client base. In other words, you don't win another client, but if you manage the clients that you have properly, you grow by 25% this year.
But that makes sense. If you take out cost of sale and all those kind of conversations, and you've already got relationships there that you just need to strengthen, it does make sense when you say that. And I like the idea of getting easy money. Well, not easy money, but money that's there. I just haven't unlocked it yet. So we are going to look at that. Now, Mike, I do want to delve deeper now because, and by the way, guys, if you do have any questions or any pushback or anything that you disagree with Mike on, please do let us know in the comments and I'll make sure to bring it up. But now I want to look at client care because we have quite a official view of client care that some people perhaps would have a different version of. So can we just make sure we're singing from the same hymn sheet?
Yeah. Client care is made up of 4 bits. And you really have to tick each of these boxes, these conditions. They have to be in great shape, else you're not going to be where you need to be. So number 1 is delivery. If your ability to, and I'll split this up so that we all know what we're talking about here, because delivery means different things to different people. Delivery is the ability to take the vacancy from the client and really understand the nuances of the vacancy, know what's important and what isn't, what's mandatory, what's optional, know that if they say this, they'll also take that, to really understand the vacancy. And obviously the more senior person that you hire, more this becomes relevant. At the same time, to really understand the EVP of the client, so you can sell the client's company as well as the role, which is crucial these days. We all know that. So that's a really important thing. Then the ability to go out and search and find candidates that your competitors aren't finding and start a conversation with these people. Well, it's really tough if people aren't looking for a job to actually ring them up and speak to them. It's kind of hard to do, really. They ignore emails and LinkedIn messages. But it's really difficult, but you have to be able to do that. Then properly qualify them. And that's got different levels. Obviously, we're talking about qualifying them. Are they suitable for the role? Did the skills and experience that the client has asked for, did they match? Then you've got the softer things, the softer skills, their attitude, their approach, their values, do they match? And then you've got the other thing, if there's any search companies watching this now will already know about, are they serious about the role? You see, I think with some recruiters, it's just about getting a shortlist and whacking them forward. But with search companies, it tends to be, yes, they've got to be exactly what the clients want, but we don't want tire kickers. If someone gets offered the job, we expect them to take it. And so some people who are a perfect match will get thrown out because they're not serious about the vacancy, right? So, and then you've got to manage the whole kind of CV submission and interviews and offers and so on and so forth. So that is delivery. Now, in the golden age of recruitment from 2010 to 2023, and by the way, that will be known as the golden age of recruitment. I kid you not. We will look back on those days and think, oh man, they were great days. You should have been in recruitment in the golden days, you were telling people. But during that period, you can be average and be okay. You can make a living and be average. You can't do that now. You already know this because of what the market's doing. Cannot be average. You've got to be at least above average. Preferably, you've got to be very good at what you do. And delivery is the thing that they buy from us. It's the actual product that they buy. All the rest of the stuff that we do for them is
Okay,
is
Mike.
they buy this.
I have a question then. I have a question. What would you say to those people who are saying, but delivery's harder now because I have to deal with TAs more? So I don't get to speak to the hiring manager. I don't get to speak. I don't get all that information that you talked about at the beginning because I have to go through a TA or sometimes an online portal and I don't get any of that. So I
Well,
can't offer the kind of supreme level of delivery
okay,
that you did in the 90s.
okay. So there's a couple of things about that really. 'Twas ever thus, not the portals, but there's been TAs. They used to be called resource managers, and they came in the mid 90s, and essentially to stop recruiters talking to hiring managers. It's always been like that. It's not a new thing. I think in the golden age, it got pushed to one side because there was so much demand, and so people, it's a bit like the Wild West out there. But it's come back in again a little bit, I think now, and TAs control access, and I think increasingly, obviously, as we know, they're supposed to fill the vacancies and so on and so forth. So, but if you talk to any TA, they still expect to work with agencies. It's no different. So your attention changes to building a relationship with the TAs. It's no different, really. They're just clients. They're going to need your service at some point. And they're people. They're going to choose the companies who are the best for them, the best value for money for them, the people that work in the way that they want to work, the people who've got similar value sets, people they like in many cases. That's no different. Now, in terms of building a relationship with people that you cannot ever speak to, that is difficult. And you can only do it through your written content, CVs, profiles, right? There's a thing called a three-dimensional profile, which we don't have time to cover today, maybe in another show. A 3D profile or 3D CV means that you write it in such a way and you put information in it and you represent your candidate in such a way that it stands out. Not by using cliched words, not by using words that an AI has written for you, but clearly a human being has spoken to this candidate more than once, has gained a lot of information and then summarized this and put it in a way that a hiring manager you never get to speak to will look at. And I know this sounds a bit kooky because it doesn't work on everybody, which of course it doesn't. But enough people will begin to realize that the quality of your profiles when they come through, and then how those profiles match to actual people when they interview them, is better than other people. And then your CVs will bubble to the top because that's how it works. Not for everybody, but for enough people.
Okay, so that's fair. I take that. I take your point. But how am I supposed to know that my service is good? Because the people that we work with, anyway, the people that we work with in the program, I know them. They do a great job because they care and they do everything. But sometimes you miss stuff. Sometimes you don't understand that maybe something is vaguely annoying. How am I supposed to know as a recruiter that I'm actually doing what my clients want them to?
Okay,
Or
so there's an interesting debate here, really. So you've got two things that a recruitment company owners are interested in. You've got efficiency, which is essentially making as much money as you can from the team that you have. And so we think about using tools and we think about using best practice processes and we think about management to make sure people work hard and so on and so forth. And those internal efficiencies usually are represented by internal data points that we have. So how many vacancies did we turn into fees? What's our conversion rate from CV submit to interview to offer to accept to start? They're internal measurements, but they're very good ways of measuring efficiency. The client is not so interested in that. The client is interested in the service that they get in its entirety, a lot of which is represented by how you make them feel. So yeah, do you do a good job? But actually, is it easy working with you? And that's quality. So efficiency is an internal measure, quality is an external measure. And the only way that you can find that out is to ask your clients. Now, people say we do that all the time. And I've seen some of the things that they use, and they're not bad, but they're skewed to get the answer that they want,
Yeah.
not
Oh
the real.
yeah, you did great. Yay.
89% of our clients gave us a 5-star rating. Yeah, because that's how you ask the question. So they will answer that, and you can tick that box and move on. It's not what we want at all. Now, this is the second of the four. So delivery is the first, and arguably the most important, because if you can't do the job they hire you to do, I don't care how the rest of it is, how they like you and go to the cricket with you and all those things, they're not going to trade with you because you're just not good at what you do, right? So you've got to be above average with delivery for sure. The second thing is this piece around quality or excellence. And that comes from internal measurements, of course it does, but also from a thing called VOTC, voice of the customer. Now, I've got something to show you about that, because we're going to do our second show is going to be on that very thing. We are going to look at voice of the customer. It's the last show of this season. It's in 2 weeks' time. Our special guest is Gemma Slight, and she is a client, and they implemented VOTC a few months ago now, and they've already seen massive benefits. Doesn't cost any money to run. It's got huge benefits. Yeah, it'll differentiate you. Of course it will, and it'll boost revenues, which it will. And it will also rescue clients that could be slipping out, and it will provide you with data as to what clients are interested in. If you've got a content program, you want to produce the right kind of content, it'll do that. And also it'll give you what you need to make your product or service excellent, to stand out, to be better. Right? It is magical. And I know that we'll have as many people on that show as we've got on this. I know it, but I don't care, because it's important. So even if I only talk to one of you and VOTC changes your world, that works for me. So don't miss that one. It's so important.
Essentially, the way I like to think about it, VOTC is the cure for that perceived indifference, where they're like, oh, they don't really care about me, they only care about new people.
It's more of an antidote, or what's that thing when you have an injection to stop you getting something, inoculation. It's more of that, really. It stops the slip. It stops an issue becoming a problem and a problem becoming a crisis. It's magical, but it's so much more than that. A whole show on one thing, right? Which is a subset of client care, because that's what it is, VOTC.
Yeah.
Man, check that out.
We are huge proponents of it, and we probably managed to convince 20% of the people, if that we speak to, and every single one of those who does it raves about it. Yeah. But it's such a hard sell for us. But anyway, we'll move on to that for next week. But let's move on, Mike. So the other thing that I want to talk to you about is account management, because as part of client care, I guess, is managing the client, getting vacancies when they come up. What in your mind is the difference between account management and client care?
Well, so account management, there is a slight crossover between the two, of course, but account management is a subset of client care. It's an aspect of client care. And if you were going to sum it up in one word, you would use the word transactional. It's about making money. I tell you, years ago, I used to do training for bigger recruitment firms. I don't do it anymore. Don't like it really. But I was doing this series of account management seminars throughout the country. Groups of about 12 to 14 people who were supposed to be account managers, right? And I did one, and I went round and said, well, tell me what you think account management is then. And rather depressingly, the response from pretty much everybody, if I'm paraphrasing, is getting vacancies out of clients. That's it, really. And I think that's probably a good description of account management, but it's not client care. That is very transactional. You need to do that. You need to get the vacancies, because if you don't get the vacancies, you won't make any money. So the rest of it, all this stuff that you can do, means nothing because you didn't get the vacancy. So yeah, of course it's important to do that. And when you get the vacancy, it's important to work with your delivery team in order to fill the vacancy, because that's where you make the money. I get it. Also, it's important for account managers to understand who the hiring managers are and key decision makers are in a business. So to do a client map, proper client map, to understand who's there and to be able to assess the value of all of that stuff is important as part of a transactional client care process. It's account management, but it's part of the client care process, as is an escalation point if things go wrong. So they've got someone to ring up and say, a person you sent me is rubbish, you need to sort this out, or whatever it is, right? So that is account management, and it's very important to get it done properly, but that is not client care. That is not client care. It is a subset of client care. And I, as you know, people know on the show that we're big fans of layered recruitment models. Okay, so and the reason for that, there's lots of reasons for it, all sorts of great reasons. But one of them is I think it's very important now to be excellent at what you do. 360s cannot be excellent at delivery and excellent at account management and excellent at the quality side of things and excellent at BD. It's really hard. You can be average at all of them. And every now and again, someone who's really good at all of them, they're probably going to own their own business pretty soon, almost certainly, right? So, and I think it's time to be excellent now. So if you're in delivery, be excellent at delivery. Hire people that want to be really good at it. And when it comes to account management, I think there's nothing wrong in having a bunch of people whose main job is to get vacancies out of clients and fill them. I think that's fine. But it's not enough on its own. It isn't enough.
Okay.
In small businesses, if you're a solopreneur, you have to do it all and do the best you can, right? And as your business grows a little bit, you might be able to spin some of it out. But in most of the people listening to this show and watching this show now, most of them are probably never going to get above 3 or 4 people. You know, the vast majority, at least 50%, are going to be solopreneurs, maybe with a little offshore resource helping out from time to time. And therefore you have to do it all, but you have to mentally compartmentalize the difference between account management and client care. It's incredibly important, and you need to do them all. I don't mean to diminish account management.
Yeah, it's important. It's a key thing. It brings the money and it pays the bills. But I do want to move on now to something that you want to spend the bulk of this on, which I think really shows the difference between account management and client care. I don't really need to sneeze. And that is relationship management. So can you sort of explain what relationship management is?
Yeah, I can sum it up. Let's just bring this up, Kirst, right? So you probably know this quote. It's quite a famous quote from Maya Angelou, who's sadly departed now. But people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. But people will never forget how you made them feel. And that's, if you're going to take anything away from this section, it's relationship management is making people feel in a certain way, because that bond that you create with them is above pretty much anything else you can do. So you assume, let's just assume, so good at delivery. Maybe you've got a delivery team that is spot on. Now they're just very focused. They're very hot on it. You've outsourced the VOTC, so you constantly get this feedback. That's great. You've got a bunch of account managers who are just getting vacancies from wherever they can and making sure if you get them, you fill them. Great. That's not enough now. If you want to be the apex supplier, you've got to have all of that, and you've got to make people like you. In short, you've got to move people from the client zone into the friend zone, because that's where the big money is. I kid you not, that is where the big dough is.
Okay, now I've got a thing here for this, because, you know, Pete and I speak to a lot of people throughout the month on the program, and one of the big things that we get when we talk about this is people say clients don't want it. Clients don't want to be my friend. Clients don't want a deeper relationship with me. Clients don't want to be my friend. And every time I push, it just makes things worse. So what would you say to the people who've had that experience?
Oh, I would say that a lot of those people don't want to be your friends. They don't see a value in it. They don't want to do it. They don't like you, perhaps, or more often that they don't like what you stand for. It's a form of prejudice, really, in a sense, because they think that recruiters are a certain type, this group, all recruiters, money obsessed, bit slippery around the edges, bit sharp,
Make promises they don't keep.
they'll blank you if they can't help you, they'll ghost you. It's not true, but that's what they think. And so why would you want to be friends with someone like that? So I'll tell you another story, right? So years ago, I could probably tell you 10 stories similar to this one, maybe more. There was a guy, he worked for a large transport company. His name was Alan. Let's call him Alan, shall we? Right. Alan. And every time I talked to him on the telephone, the hiring manager, he was monosyllabic. That's the word, isn't it? Does that mean?
It's like, yeah, whatever.
He was friendly enough in the sense that he gave me the time when we were working on vacancies together and arranged interviews, do all the stuff you need to do, but that was it really. And then we ran a social, which we used to do a lot in those days. We ran a social, we picked a pub, which was at the end of the road where they were situated. And we invited all the hiring managers. 5 o'clock, we'll be there buying free drinks, and there'll be a bit of food on from 6 o'clock. Come or don't come, right? We used to do this all the time. It's harder to do now, I have to admit, but nonetheless. And people came, and he came, and I spent a good percentage of my evening talking to him, and we're just not about work, just talking about his life, and we'd got a lot in common. His children were the same age as mine. Turned out he liked to go to Wales, not far from where we went actually, just a bit further down. Not just south of Aberystwyth, so not far. But there's a whole bunch of stuff that were very similar, and you could tell it was like a warmer, just warmed. And I think he saw me as something different to what he thought I was going to be. His prejudice against me. The first four, and I remember this to this day, that the next call I had with him after this social event was like a different person with me. And he started, when I used to offer to take people out for lunch and he would never come. He started coming for lunch with me. Got to the stage where I was in the Louvre and there was a statue in the Louvre and it was a spitting image of Alan. And I took a picture of it on my little digital phone. There was no cameras in those days, and brought it back and kind of stuck it onto the computer, printed it off, and sent him a copy in the post. And it rang me up, took the piss and everything. So,
That's such boomer behaviour, I do have to say.
no, I'm not saying that everybody would be prepared to warm up to you. I'm not saying that at all. There are some people who don't want to engage with you. They don't want to engage with anybody. They probably don't want to engage with the people they work with, let alone you, right? So fine, you are not going to be able to cast your little spell over them. But equally, there's a bunch of people there where you can actually do that. Where if they can begin to see you as a human being and see you as a person, then they will give you that opportunity.
Okay. So I have what I reckon is the next obvious question, which is, you mentioned it's harder nowadays because not only are people working from home, but we have clients in the UK who are working with clients in the US. We have clients in the US on the East Coast who are working with the West Coast and whatever. Physical proximity means that those in-person events are almost impossible for some people. So what can we do in this sort of modern world to replicate that situation in order to create an opportunity for?
That's a really good question. So I'll take a step back and then I'll come back into it, right? So we used to do a tremendous amount of work around relationship building. People used to hire us to teach them how to build and monetize business relationships. Before we started working with recruiters not interested in that, too transactional. But we used to work a lot with law firms and accountancies, and they're very interested. And we had this course called Network 101. We still have it, but we don't sell it anymore. But Network 101 is designed to help people to build and monetize business relationships, right? To move people from the client zone to the friend zone. And the interesting thing is when we used to sort of give this to people, I always started in the same way. And I'll do it now, actually, for people who are listening in, either live or on the podcast later. I want you to think of a friend that you have. I want you to think of someone who you're good friends. It could be a husband or wife or partner. It could be, a girlfriend that you go having drinks with. My wife is off with one of her friends as we speak, having coffee with her. Doesn't matter, but it's a friend. Well, how does that friend make you feel? Do they make you feel ordinary or one of a crowd, or do they make you feel a bit special? And the answer is they make you feel special. It's a key element of human behavior. We want to feel as though we are different and special in someone else's eyes. So your first job in building relationships is to do that. So I'm going to answer the question, Kirsty, but I want to build up, if you don't mind.
I just build the tension.
The tension, yeah. The second thing, if you think of that person as well, is to feel appreciated, or to flip that, not be taken for granted, right? So if you do something, it's acknowledged. It doesn't have to buy you a present or something, but it's acknowledged that you helped them and you did something that you didn't really need to do, and they appreciate your help and support. It could be a few words or a little card or a little gift or something really. The third thing is the most powerful, and this is when, in terms of relationship building, it's really interesting because if you've ever, I'll ask you this, Kirsty, because I can't ask the audience, but have you ever been talking to somebody, perhaps you're upset or perhaps you're bothered or unhappy, and you're talking to someone about a situation, and the things that they say to you, you suddenly realize that they get it. They
Oh yeah.
understand what you're going through. It's the most powerful thing in relationship building. It kind of sucks you in when people say things that you just think, yeah, you totally get it. You understand.
Every yoga retreat I've ever been on, that exact thing has happened.
Yeah, well, there you go. It's incredibly powerful. I think it's a sexist thing to say, but I think women are better at it than men. So
I think women are more used to being vulnerable. There's a vulnerability to that. I think that women are more used to.
That's true. You have to open up, but that's important. The fourth element is trust. We want to trust other people, but we want them to trust us as well. It's a symbiotic. Trust is a symbiotic thing. And then the fifth element of this, that's a great movie, isn't it?
Great film. This one is great film.
The fifth element is actually that you're fun. I don't mean like telling jokes all the time, but it's not a dour experience being with you. It's fun. You might just be light or funny or have a story or something. In fact, in the Network 101, we do a big feature on storytelling because it's such an important part of building relationships. Well, this is now a lot softer than putting a bum on a seat or getting vacancies out of people, but this is the battleground. This is where relationships get built, whether they're relationships with your team, with your boss, with your prospects as you're trying to do business with people, or with your clients. It's this: we want to make them feel special, appreciated, understood, trusted, and we want them to like our company. I'll tell you another very interesting. Have we got time? Yeah, we have. So years ago, I had. I'm going to answer the question as well, but let me do this bit first, right? So years ago, I used to know a guy called Ronnie Bowker. He's passed away now. Lovely, lovely bloke, and he was the senior partner, I should say, at Ernst & Young in Birmingham. So he ran Birmingham and the Midlands area. Big cheese, right? I knew him quite well. We were out for dinner one time, and I said, Ronnie, what does it take to be a partner at Ernst & Young? And he said, well, you've got to be technically good, you've got to work hard, all the things you'd expect him to say. And then he said, there's another thing that I look for, and I think other people do as well. There's got to be an interesting dinner guest. Strange thing to say, Ronnie. He said, yeah, well, none of our clients want to spend time with people that they don't like spending time with. And we want them to build that relationship. I mean, the professional services firms have known what I'm telling you now for years, right? They've been doing it for years. They're well in advance. They really know how to do this. And he said, if people aren't interesting or there's something about them, nobody wants to spend time with them, and therefore they don't get them to where we need them to get them, into the friend zone. He never said that, he used that expression, but that's what he was talking about. And I think that so to answer the question, we want people to feel these 5 things. We want people to be interested in dinner guests. We want people to be, oh, the phone rings. Who is it? Oh, it's Mike. Hello, Mike. How are you, old bugger? Yeah, I'm really good. How are you? We want that level of familiarity that builds up over time. And yes, of course, if you can meet somebody face to face, yes, of course, that's easy. You can do that. I think if you can't do that, then you can front and end any interaction you have over Teams or the telephone with relationship building conversations. We're going to talk about that in a second, I know. But you can front and finish it. Or you can even just arrange a meeting, which is a social. You wouldn't call it that because it sounds a bit weird, like a social Teams meeting. Do you remember you remember in
Downers.
Zoom downers? Yeah. Well, we used to chime in at 5 o'clock with a drink, and I think we should go back to doing that. Which I think would be a great time.
We never drink, so.
It's all about getting to know people. In Sweden, they have a concept called a fika, Fika, fika. And basically what it means is 11 o'clock, I think it's once a week, they all meet. This is a team. This isn't clients, this is a team. The team meet. You have to be there 11 o'clock to 11:30, and they have cake and coffee. The company puts on cake and coffee, and you just have to talk to people you don't know very well. It's a social, really, organized in the daytime. And again, they know the benefit of getting away from the transactional and just getting into the softer stuff, the friendlier stuff, and learning things about people that you can then base future interactions on. If you don't know somebody very well, then it's very hard to interact with them other than just, well, I've got this great CV, or I can have that vacancy. So
okay, so I want to delve deeper on that because I'm aware of time, Mike. So I want to delve deeper on that. You said we're having a conversation around, maybe delivery or account management or something, and you said that you would kind of bookend those interactions with sort of relationship developing interactions. What does that mean? What does that look like? What should I be doing?
Right. So, well, the first thing you've got to realize is you build relationships in layers. Okay. It's called the relationship bridge, in actual fact. But you build the bridge between you and someone else layer at a time. You couldn't just meet someone for the first time and then be sending them joke gifts. It's like, really? I mean, that's inappropriate. In itself, it's not inappropriate, providing the gift isn't inappropriate, like my brother sends me sometimes. No, ixnay on those gifts. But it's inappropriate for the level of relationship that you're on. It'd be okay if someone, I remember when I was a contractor in the 80s, that obviously someone had put on the database of these agencies, Mike is married and has 2 children before you were born, Kirst, right? So, and someone I'd never heard of would say, Mike, it's Phil. Yeah, how's Babs and the kids? Well, I don't know who you are. It's totally inappropriate. Whereas if someone like my agent, who I'd worked with for 3 years, rang me up and said, hello, how you doing? It's Mike. Yeah, how you doing, Mike? Yeah, I'm good. Yeah. How's Babs? She was a bit grumpy the last time you told me. Oh, yeah, she's all right, whatever. That's appropriate, right? So you've got to know appropriateness levels. But when you do, then you can begin to start a conversation in a way that is non-work related. Now, the secret to this, I'll tell you what it is. It's a thing called Pacific data. Right? Let me see if I can remember the acronym. It's information about individuals, them as people. So it's preferences, aspirations, challenges, incidentals, interests. Sorry, I do tell like interests, family, incidentals. That's a miscellaneous catch-up thing, and then circumstantial things that are happening to them right now, this instant. Right? If you can gather bits of that information, not all of it, because you don't even probably know all of that for your friends, but or in your wife after 42 years.
I wouldn't say that.
Okay, she never watches this show. It's fine.
She might when I send it.
If you tell her, yeah. So yes, quickly go to 3847 and watch this, Babs, here. But if you gather patches of that information, that gives you something to lead into. So you learn that someone's going to run a half marathon for the first time. The next call is, how did you get on with the half marathon? Or a little text. Not unusual. You told me you were going to run this thing, so it's not unusual. So, and there is a structure to this. I haven't got time to do the whole thing today, but the more information you gather about someone, the more you can then pick on that information and build on it. So each layer then begins to solidify. The layers is the best way to look at relationship building. Now, the other thing I would say, if you don't really know how to start that, is to share a little bit of information about yourself. Because if you do that, the chances are most human beings will share something back. So it's like, oh, hello, Kirsty. Just ringing in about this, that, and the other. But oh man, I'm so busy this week, because I moved house at the weekend. And it's been chaos. Oh, really? Where did you move to? Well, I just moved down the road. Doesn't have to be a long drawn out thing, and you should keep it small. Don't go from 0 to 100 miles an hour in one conversation. Too much,
Mhm.
right? But gradually you can build on, and the more you do this, the more people will loosen up and warm up. So even if you can't physically see them, or if they're in a different time zone, you can get to know more about them. I've got clients in California, and they were telling me recently the one bloke is a surfer, and he gets up at 5:30 every day to go surfing. And in my head, I've got this Pacific Californian thing on. He says, no, that time they're quite Northern California. It's cold and it's wet and it's not very pleasant, but I really like surfing. So that's gone in now. That is an interest that he's got, right? It's a weird preference, but it's an interest nonetheless. And so I can build on that a little bit. And you don't need too many of those to move somebody away from just the client zone and move them towards the friend zone. By the way, one quick thing on this, it's a scale. So it's not a client friend. It's a scale. You gradually move closer and closer into the client zone and then to where you need to be.
And some people, like you say, some people you're never going to get more than halfway ever in a million years. And then there's going to be maybe one or two in your whole career who do end up being actual friends. But the aim is to just get them further and further across.
Anybody that's worked in a big company, you can see a microcosm of it there. So you go to work in a big company, you work in a big department. When I was in IT, working departments with 50 people, you don't have the same relationship with each of those 50 people. You have different relationships. Those that you go to the pub with at lunchtime, because we used to do that in the 80s. They were good days. Yeah, or those that you'd have a sneaky cheeky half after work before you went home, versus those that you would, if you were in the canteen, you'd have a little chat to, and those that you just were on nodding terms with. That's the way it is. You know, we expect to have different levels of relationship with different people. Some of that is circumstantial because we just don't have much to do with them. There's no reason why we should talk to them. But some of it is this magnetism, this rapport and affinity that we build with people, which is the basis for relationships. And I wish people would be interested in this course, not because we want to sell it. And by the way, we're not. It's a distraction. But I kind of wish people would, because it's such a brilliant, when you understand how relationships are built and then how you monetize them without being, what's the word when you exploit
Easy
someone?
or taking advantage or
Doing
yeah.
that, it's symbiotic in its truest sense. It's magical. And one of the things that we were very good at in the 90s, different decade, I know, different long time ago, was this, because people did have a drinking culture. People would go and see you for lunch and dinner and breakfast. People would, if you had a social, invited a load of hiring managers, they would come, and it would get a bit leery. But the rules have changed on that now. So what we have to do is simulate that in different ways, but it's the same. You need
I
to get
think
into the specific data and then build a relationship from it.
a really good one for specific data, and then I'm going to round up, is sports teams. So we are Wolves fans for our sins, and it's a difficult job. But if you've got a sports team, then you get a regular occurrence. You know, if it's football, twice a year you'll play their team. You know, and so you get to have a bubble of interaction around there. Or it might be that you're a big rugby fan or a cricket fan or an American football fan, and you have that opportunity for interaction. So sports is a great one.
Yeah.
But Mike, if I can summarize up this client care in general, but also the relationship management, is client care is essential because if you want to build your business or just stay where you are and not go backwards in a really hard market, then you have to keep your clients that you currently have in order to add new ones on, and you have to keep them happy. So part of that client care is you obviously have to deliver what you say you're going to deliver as a job, which is putting a bomb on the seat, and you have to do it well and exactly what they want in a way that they enjoy, you know, as much as you can. Then you have to make sure that they're happy by running a VOTC show, which I'll come to in a second because it's our
And
next
if anyone's interested in that, then come in 2 weeks' time to see us interview Gemma, who's going to be brilliant, by the way.
She will, and that's already up on our show. And then you've got the account management, which is, yes, getting more vacancies and sort of making sure that everything's moving a-okay. But the core of it is this relationship management, which is taking these people who objectively don't know you from Adam, you just do a thing for them on the phone, and forming a relationship where when they see your phone appear or when they see your email, they go, I'll give that the time of the day. That's the first step. And then they go, oh yeah, it's Kirsty, or it's Mike, I'll answer that phone call. And essentially what you get is this point where they are no longer seeing you as a recruiter with this sort of somehow negative connotations that the industry can sometimes have. They're seeing you as an individual because you see them as an individual. And from that, great, powerful things can happen. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that is exactly right. The way you've just summed it up is perfect. I think, yeah, you can't forget that you're there to put a bum on a seat in a very efficient and consistent and effective way that's value for money for them, whatever you expect them to pay for it. You do need to understand what they think of you, for sure. And when we come to do VOTC, I've got some horror stories. How I lost £3 million from one client because we didn't have VOTC in place. I'll be telling that story 2 weeks' time. And obviously, you need account management. But it's interesting because if you reach a company size of 10, 12 people, then it's worth having somebody whose entire job or part job is relationship manager. If you're going to split it, it's split between a marketer. So you get a marketer, if they're any good at relationships, of course, a marketer, and they do the relationship management. And their job is not to be transactional with anybody. All your clients, their job is just to have this kind of relationship, and it's done in a certain way. That might sound a bit weird what I've just said to you, but it isn't. And everywhere that they've implemented this, based upon our guidelines, sees a boost in revenues, because now you've got someone who's sitting on the same side of the desk as the client. It's not interested. They're not allowed to be transactional. They're not allowed to take vacancies. They can't do that. They're there to build relationships and strengthen relationships. And that's the thing that I think that in a smaller business, obviously most people watching this or listening to this are smaller. That's what you have to do. That is it, is to push yourself as far into the friend zone as you possibly can. And you're not going to be doing that by being purely transactional. Never going to happen. They can respect you, like you from what they see of you, but you're not going to get that extra help to give you the edge that you need. And that's what we're talking about here, to get the edge just above the competition. You know, in casinos, or the casinos got a very slight percentage difference, but that's enough for them to make all that money.
Yeah.
And it's the same.
Okay, Mike. So people are watching this and they're thinking, okay, Mike, I get the client care thing. You banged on about it and I understand it. What's the first thing that I should do? What's your top tip for these people?
Okay. I think this is a tough one because there's quite a lot, but yeah, you just nailed it there. I think I would start in a very simple way by not just collecting Pacific data, but also sharing your own Pacific data, because you have preferences and you have aspirations, things you want to achieve, and challenges, and so on and so forth. So you begin to share those in a smaller way. And if you do, the chances are they'll share right back. And that's the beginning. That is the very core of this. The ability, I mean, it's effectively small talk, which a lot of people don't value, but my goodness, it's important to be able to do this. So that would be my first starting point, I think.
I would sort of echo that. If I had a top tip, which I never get a top tip, but if I were
What's
to
your
have
top
one,
tip, Kirsty? What's your
it
top
would
tip?
be to start sharing small things about yourself, because what you're looking for is a connection. Humans like connections. It's part of our makeup
And
in
you
our
can
head.
tell that because if you put something personal on LinkedIn, not only does it go like big star, but also people refer to it. They'll refer that you put something on there.
That personal connection. And if you share something that's small, don't be creepy, don't be weird, don't be sharing, colonoscopy video. That might be a step too far for some people. But start sharing small things about you, and then hopefully people will come back. Okay, Mike, we never do this. We've overrun by 4 minutes. My God. Happens when we have a guest. But I want to say, first of all, thank you to everybody who watched the show today. We know it's not the sexiest of things when you compare it to BD, but it is so, so powerful for not only creating a business that has longevity, but is also safe. And those are two things.
Well, we knew that we wouldn't get a lot of viewers for this show and next show, and we still did it. Because we know it's important. So I'm glad. Thank you for tuning in. And if you listen to this or watch this later, thank you for doing so, because it's such an important part of business growth.
Indeed. And I have to say thank you for Mike for sharing a lot with us today and just wearing that magnificent shirt, which if you're on the podcast, you are missing out.
Yeah. You need to get involved. You need to nip over quickly and take a look at my shirt on the
Indeed.
LinkedIn.
Okay. All right. And with that, we will see you in 2 weeks to talk about VOTC.